What if the ultimate act of love isn't, a warm embrace, but actually flipping over tables and cracking a whip?
Yeah, it's a pretty intense image to start with, right?
Totally. It sounds entirely contradictory to how we normally use the word.
Yeah.
We're looking at a perspective that kind of completely upends our everyday definition of love. We're examining a daily devotional excerpt, specifically the May 12th entry of Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris.
Right, and we're exploring a very specific theological argument it makes. Essentially, that human beings have fundamentally misunderstood what love actually is.
Exactly. And just to set the stage for you listening, we're unpacking the specific religious concepts presented in this text, looking at how it contrasts, human definitions with a divine standard.
So the central premise here is a clash of definitions.
Mhm.
On one hand, we have the way humanity defines love, which is usually a feeling, an attitude, or a comforting action.
Right, the greeting card stuff.
Exactly. And then there's the divine definition, which operates by a completely different set of rules.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because the text notes that long before Jesus walked the earth, people were already tossing the word love around.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even the Greek word agape, which we so often hear described as this highest form of unconditional love, that was just a regular part of daily conversation back then.
Right, so humanity already had this box labeled love, and they thought they knew exactly what belonged inside it.
They did. But the text points to a massive paradigm shift. It references 1 John 4.8, which says God is love, and John 1.14 to argue that Jesus didn't just come to, perfectly act out the human concept of agape.
Wait, so he wasn't just demonstrating an existing idea?
No, not according to this text. He was the complete visible manifestation of God's love in actual human flesh.
It's kind of like the difference between reading a 2D architectural blueprint and standing in the actual physical building.
Well, I like that analogy.
Thanks. I mean, before, humanity had the blueprint, the word agape. They understood the dimensions of the idea. But the text is arguing that Jesus is the physical 3D building. You aren't just reading the specs anymore. You can walk inside, experience it. It moves love from an abstract noun to a living, breathing person.
And that shift from a concept to a person, that is exactly what creates the tension in this devotional. Because if Jesus is the literal living embodiment of love, then absolutely everything he did was a pure manifestation of it.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting for you listening, because preaching and healing the sick, feeding the poor, those perfectly match our modern view of love.
Of course they do, but the text explicitly points to actions that don't fit that mold at all.
Yeah, specifically the moment Jesus made a whip and drove the money changers out of the temple, overturning their tables. I mean, that is aggressive disruption. How does the text logically connect that kind of force to love?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text makes the case that true divine love isn't restricted to just being nice or passive.
Okay, so it's a totally different framework.
Right. Think about the underlying mechanism of what he was doing in the temple. He was fiercely protecting something sacred from corruption. He was correcting a path that was fundamentally wrong.
So in this theological framework, allowing a destructive behavior to just continue unchecked wouldn't be love. It would be apathy.
Exactly. The disruption itself is the loving act. The core thesis here is that human definitions of love will never decide for God what love actually is.
So the force is a corrective measure, like if a parent forcefully grabs a child to pull them back from a busy street. The action is violent, but the motive is pure love.
That's a great way to look at it. We tend to judge divine actions by our human standards, but the devotional insists that the divine is the standard. If an action contradicts your preconceived notion of love, but it was done by him, it's your definition that is too small, not the action.
Wow, that really forces a total reevaluation. Distilling this down, the core takeaway from this devotional is that true love isn't some abstract, negotiable human concept that we get to dictate.
Right. It's a complete revelation, fully embodied by Jesus Christ, encompassing the gentle, the healing, and, well, the unexpectedly fierce.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question to consider. If our human definitions of love are fundamentally incomplete compared to this text's divine standard, how might applying this specific lens change the way you interpret other challenging or forceful actions done in the name of love?
Yeah, it really makes you rethink things.
It definitely makes you realize that when a concept steps off the page and into reality, it rarely behaves the way you expect. Something for you to ponder as you go about your day.
We trust you were blessed by this episode. To gain unlimited access to Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris, please download the Rhapsody app using the link. My app www.rhapsodyofrealities.org. God bless you.